Good afternoon, internets. Just gonna check so I have some audio. I do. Some audio, at least. Hope you guys are well. I am well. As you can see, been doing some refurnishing at home, and I still haven't hung my paintings or prints, Daria prints, but they're coming back. Or something else, something. I don't know about you guys, but for me, spending so much time at home that I've been doing for the last 9 months really makes you start home improvement. And well, that is what it is. Hey Dave, hey okay, hey Sylvia, hey Bienen, hello Jane, hello Zorn. Zorn, as you guys might know from the band Zornheim. We go a long way back. I don't know if you're still here. I tend to, when I see friends stream from various bands, I don't know. I tend to jump into the stream and say hello, and then I sort of disappear because it feels like I'm intruding. But in any case, no one is intruding. Everybody's welcome. And I am trying out different stuff. One of the stuff ain't working. I can see that much. It's a viewer count, but I happen to know how many viewers I have, and I know this ain't working. But I can maybe refresh. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, doesn't work. Oh well, not everything can be working as it should. I will just kill it. Yeah. As you might have seen, I have fixed the chat. So now it's actually possible to chat in stuff from Twitch, from YouTube, and from Facebook. And also, it's all the usernames are now in white, so you can actually see who wrote what. Because previously that sort of was a randomized color, and it tended to be like a bleak green or bleak yellow against, beige. So that sucked. How are you doing? I have grape juice wine from Spain, I think. Not sure actually, but it's good, and that goes a long way for me. I don't usually drink wine every evening. But when I stream, I do. So that's my drug of choice currently. I stopped smoking, and those who know me well know that I used to be a heavy smoker, and it's been like 50 days now, and it's doable. In these strange times, things are fucked up anyway. So for me, that was like a thing that I could do and that I had to do because I was smoking too much. But so instead I compensate by drinking wine because the sum of all addictions is constant or whatever. So this is like season 2 of my impromptu, or I would say season 1.5, because it's like a sort of an off in between season 1 and the season 2 that starts after New Year. And when that one comes, I will bring on some new guests and some guests you met before, and also me, Walter, and Nine will keep on pushing our opinion about stuff, because the trio of us, we feel pretty happy about talking to each other, and it seems like the conversations we have also sparks interest among you viewers, so we'll keep that going also. Need to cancel the like button? No. Well, actually it was like a viewer count, because I want to see how many are viewing it, but I could see that the Facebook version wasn't really working. Rika, Privyet. Hope you are doing fine as well. Back in Moscow, or are you in Nizhny Novgorod still? No, back in Moscow, right? Um, it's great that you guys make it here, and I am grateful you do, because it gives me a sense of purpose actually to do these streams. It might not be, you know, a world altering thing, but it's a way for me to be able, and Rui, hey, it's a way for me to keep, you know, doing something fairly creative, and also it's a way for me to spread the gospel about the metal. So I'll keep doing that. Yeah, so you're in Moscow, and I am Nephente, for those who don't know, but I tend to forget that because you're supposed to introduce yourself. I'm Nephente. I'm the vocalist of RIKET, Swedish death metal, and Netherbird, Swedish blackish, death metal-ish, melodic-ish metal. I also work with a record label called Eisenwald to a small degree, but still I do. And I also do other stuff metal. I guess I'm a lifetime sort of metalhead. So mainly, like anybody else, I'm just, what can I say, an appreciator of the finer arts of black and death and otherwise extreme metal. Waiting your review of my last week's book, Nephente. Yeah, okay, it's coming. It's been fairly hectic, but I'm getting to it. Speaking about books, I still have one of these, because I said I was gonna gift away 3 lyric books. They look like this. They're like not super thick, but it's the lyrics for all Netherbird albums released so far. There will be a new album coming, which makes this edition, you know, special or old. You pick your poison there. But every edition comes with a different sort of intro writing that I do, where I reflect on current stuff. But if somebody wants this, the last one ever, except the one I keep myself, send me an email to nephente@netherbird.com. I'll be happy to gift it to you, because I think books are important. But I might be a bit fucked up from, you know, we all fucked up from our childhood, I guess. But when I came to a kids' party in the little village where I grew up, all the kids were always saying, "Oh, here comes Johan," which is my, you know, birth name, with a book, because I always brought a book as a gift. Of course, I didn't go and pick the book. My mother did, but she thought it's always good to give a book, and I guess now I agree. But when you're like 7, a book is not, you know, the sexiest shit you can bring. But I did. So all the kids in my village got a book from me when they had their birthday. So I still love books. I had the privilege of working in 2 different libraries, 2 university libraries, various places in Sweden. I'm not going to delve into that, but I like libraries. I like the book collection in themselves. I like the print and the ink and the paper and stuff. But I also like what libraries represent, because it's actually not, you know, it's not a book storage room. It's an information enabling facility, you know, where people who care deeply about information, facts, data, make it available for people, help them to find it. And also, I think in most societies, people tend to trust the library maybe more than most other state institutions. So that makes libraries important to me. Also, I would say that libraries are the temple of the atheists. I'm not gonna, you know, go into any deep debate. People might have faith, and that's fine with me. But to say that atheists don't have temples is, I think, a bit offensive, because I see really libraries as the temple of my faith, because there I can discover stuff and I can dig deep into. You can rise to the shoulders of giants by reading up on all the stuff that been discovered. So almost whenever I set out to do something, I tend to try to find a book about the subject, read there, or at least do the Wikipedia article research, but even more so, find a book, read about it, and then proceed from there. It's pretty great that people actually take their time and write down everything they learned through a lifetime, and I can pick it up in a matter of days. Pretty cool. It's good to see that, Jane, you're also a book lover. Okay, Rika, the book is yours. I will happily send it over. Let's see, so I'm not lying. Nope. You get the book because you were the quickest. There will be a new edition of the lyric book because I love the printed text. It's always errors in it. No matter how many times I read it, reread it, and try to make everything correct, there will always be errors. But that's part of the beauty. It's it's tangible. It's there with its flaws and faults and stuff. But I think if you would, I still find like typos and weird shit in the Netherbird lyrics on netherbird.com, despite the stuff has been out on the net for like the oldest stuff is 14 years. It's been online, and still I find fucking flaws in it. Texts are hard. A well corrected book is a hard thing to really accomplish. But yeah, in any case, I also try to make it affordable. I made a coffee table book with a French artist, Stéphane, but it became so expensive to print it. So I do this is just black and white. But I can keep the price under 10 euros, which I think is fairly fine. But in any case, after New Year's, I will start doing the more, this stream as you might recognize it from before with, new guests, old guests. One thing that I will do, one of the first episodes will be a confession booth where me and 3 other musicians, we confess to bands that everybody loves, but we don't really understand, or we haven't gotten into them. I confess to not really being so into Black Sabbath. I understand their importance, and I love the contribution, but it has never been exactly for me. And there are more bands. One of the guys will talk about why he never got into Opeth. And that's how so there are more people with this dirty laundry to be aired. So we'll do a confession booth, and we'll talk about bands that we're supposed to love, but we don't really understand them. And for me, that is a pretty long list. And also, so you guys can also do the same. Think about bands and don't write them now. Save them for the future chat. Bands that everybody loves but you haven't gotten into. Or that you simply hate. But I don't hate so many bands because I don't spend so much. If the music is not for me, I don't really get into it. So there are very few artists that I hate. But there are bands that everybody seems to love, and I haven't really understood it. And I mentioned him before, I'll do it again. Nuno Bettencourt in Extreme said that music you don't like is music you don't get. So it doesn't mean that I don't think the music is good. It's just I haven't understood it. Okay, in these days I'm reading from my phone. I got used to it, but now I understand why people prefer Kindle. You have a chance to focus on more. On phone notifications. Yeah. Totally agreed. I am still a paper book reader, and I read a lot. And I read in parallel, so I read several books. So I pick up whichever book I feel fitting for the mood. And I only read before I sleep, because I don't have the patience. But then I want it to be without any notifications for sure. So I'm still doing paper books because they're so cheap, and I can, just fill a bag whenever I feel like it. Kindle I haven't gotten into yet, but people seem to love it, so I should, I guess. Cheers to Kindle. And I mean, with Kindle you have all the, you have the library in your hand, which is a great thing if you know what you want, and I guess it has suggestions and shit like Spotify and the rest. So that does make sense. But notifications and reading on an iPhone sounds like a bad idea, and it sounds like a recipe to be distracted. But what am I supposed to talk to about today? Well, I have two things. I have said that I'm going to talk about a previous, I'm going to talk my way through all the Netherbird releases. So then I'm going to talk about Lighthouse Eternal, which is now turning 13 years old, almost 14. Weird when you think of it. And then I'm gonna talk also about a few albums that are like these, important fucking albums that I discovered at the exact time and age where it sort of made me into the musician and I guess the person that I am today. So I want to talk about them just because they are so important to me. And maybe for most of you, I think you heard them or seen that they're sort of classics these days, but you didn't know that then. You had no idea what's going to be, a classic band or not. There are some surprises. Bands that, I noted, of course, and I liked, but if I were to pick, which bands would be huge today, I wouldn't have picked Catatonia, for instance. Because there were nothing on the first album to hint of what Catatonia is today. Similarly, other bands that I wouldn't have picked to be so big. Catatonia is a prime example. Not saying that they don't deserve it. Every band that gets success deserves success because it means that people like it, and that's what music is about. But I wouldn't have guessed on those. Dissection is not so strange because there was something special with Dissection already then. I felt it. I wouldn't have guessed that Metallica would turn into what it is today, and to me, it's awful. But it says something. They were only good for the first decade, in my book, and then 3 decades they've released stuff that I don't like, and I still must say I like Metallica. That's how strong the love can become for a band. So no matter what they do after I fell in love with them, I still, it doesn't matter, I still like Metallica, but I haven't liked any of their albums since And Justice for All, but I like that a lot. So yeah, and I mean, one of the first songs I learned to play on bass was For Whom the Bell Tolls, and of course, I mean, you can't erase that, it doesn't matter. But we're not in a relationship anymore, me and Metallica. I have fond memories. But I'm happy for Metallica. Of course. It's not for me anymore. Paper books. I'm so happy that I can fucking read finally the chat and I see the stuff that you guys write. All the library within your bag. Yeah. Paper too. Yeah, so there are some paper heads here, some more digital people. I am digital when it comes to a lot of things, but still not books. But finally, a few years ago, I switched from old school calendar to Google Calendar, and now my life is it's at least it's clear to someone, I guess. NSA and Google. Did you guys notice that YouTube and Gmail went down today? And that is funny, because I mean, first you can think of the consequences, like, yeah, okay, so you can't watch, cat clips on YouTube. But then I saw a guy posting that I'm sitting in my children's room and I can't turn on the lights because it's all on Google Home now. And then you start to think that, Yeah, we trust these cloud services, these global cloud services, to always be there, and when they're no longer there, we fucking panic because we get so dependent on them. So it was a hacker attack. Then somebody really made it. If you're able to, bring down major Google services, that's gonna be, something to brag about, I guess, in hacker, don't know, in hackerland. And I mean, that is the beauty of, an old school collection of books. It can't be hacked. Or an old school collection of, CDs or whatever. It's always there, and it's never going to be, rewritten in hindsight. Hey, Paolo, how are you? It's good to see more people finding their way. And this is just my impromptu Nephente talks about this and that, and it's unscripted, so I mean, it will make no sense. But then again, it's 2020. What the hell makes sense this year? So we've been doing this. Hello, Isabel. Hope your cats are fine. I'm Ferenc. Hello, Ferenc. It's such a weird year, but I started this in March. I think it was March, maybe April. And then we didn't know anything. Now we know some stuff. And we know how contagious it is, but people seem to no longer be able to stop themselves. In Sweden, the spread is worse than ever. It really looks bad. But at the same time, the panic has sort of ceased because, the death toll is not extremely high, but it's way too high. And people who compare this to the flu obviously don't work in the healthcare sector. But on the bright side, there are vaccines now. We don't know exactly how great they are, but they are coming, and that gives us some hope. So and I saw the vaccine coordinator guy in Sweden said that most Swedes should be vaccinated by April or May, which gives me some hope for the summer, and at least for next autumn. But then again, I will work from home until at least June next year. So yeah, what a weird year. So I guess me having this unscripted streams is not like our biggest problem. I am fine. Ironically, I think this year has been really good for me in the sense that it forced me to calm down. It forced me to really evaluate what I'm doing and change some behavioral patterns, which hasn't been super healthy. At one point, because these days we talk about mental health and stuff, and I've done an interview in a magazine, in Bardo magazine, where I talk in depth about where I've been during my sort of mental collapse period that I've been through, and the medications and the path through that to where I am today, where I'm doing better than in a long time actually. And partly this year has also forced me to change some strategies where I can no longer run away to the gym or run away to work or whatever, to hide away from stuff. So it's been therapy for me. But of course, I also feel very, sorry for people who lost dear ones, and I also feel very sorry for my fellow musicians who, live from music, because it's been tough for them this year. And many of them stand without... oh, we got a bot. Awesome. We'll see how many more want to become famous. Yeah, who doesn't? Bigfollows.com. Great. Who's buying? I'd like to be a little bit famous. That's okay. How much does fame cost? Anybody has an idea? Don't visit that fucking site. I will remove that bot at some point. It's been a year which we couldn't be a lot outdoors. So a year for some introspective work. Yeah, Sylvia, definitely. I mean, introspective to the very level where we sort of just had to deal with who we are and how we feel. And I think it's not only been bad. It's been awful, boring, fucking boring. But at least I've spent some time doing some pretty good stuff for myself, and I hope you guys, at least you've been joining my fantastic stream once a week, so that's something. But I can only hope that 2021 will be a slightly light year. But fear not, I will keep my streams going for as long as there's people watching. Because I actually really enjoy this, and I really enjoy the company of you guys. So, and I know that I might have sounded like I don't last week or so, but I'm not taking your participation lightly. I really enjoy it, but also feel free to make this also your time, because if you have anything you want to ask me or something you want to be discussed, just let me know, and we'll do this together. Concerts as a therapy, and now I had to find other ways dealing with stuff because of COVID. Yeah, I mean, concerts, they are to some they're therapy, to some it's just an oasis in the gray darkness of mundane life, I guess. I miss them. I don't miss having beer poured down my neck from piss drunk mosh pit idiots. I love mosh pits, but I mean, for fuck's sake, they should just don't bring their beer. But I think I've taken concerts for granted, like most people, and when you remove something, you appreciate the value of it, and also, I mean, I like the streams that people have been doing, but it doesn't work for me, because for me it's about meeting people or just the ambience. I don't need to hang out with people. Normally, I actually prefer to stand alone on concerts just to be there, but. For me, it doesn't. Hail Satan. To me, it's just it's an escape from everything into this other world where there is only music and the moment. Because it's unscripted, anything can go, and you feel the sweat and the moving air. Everything is just sort of acute. It's there in the moment, and that moment is once in a lifetime. I mean, you can go to the same band twice, but you can't go to the same concert. It's something about that. You can't rewatch it. Of course, if people phone it, you can watch it on YouTube, but it's not the same for me. So I miss that, and it's very primal. RIKET, good that you're back. Don't tap anything. 2 left hands, Not quite the same. I love the bands do them, and sitting concerts are not quite the same. I absolutely agree. I mean, I totally respect that bands try everything these days, and for some people it works better, I guess. And if you really the good thing, at least in Sweden, stuff sucks. If you're not 18, you can't go to almost any metal concerts, because people, they sell alcohol, and then it's not allowed with a mixed crowd, and I think it sucks. Because when I was a teenager, when I was like, my first concert was a Ramones gig. I was 15, and having to stand outside for another 3 years would have sucked. So I really feel that for them, the streamed versions is better than nothing. But I also think we should make it work so that kids can go to gigs, and adults can go to gigs, and we don't have to. It should be possible to just have a mixed crowd, and those of age can drink, and the others can just go for the gig. should even be cheaper if you're young, because we need more like young people finding the metal scene. I couldn't have lived with that I was going to concerts since I was 7. Yeah, that's Denmark. No rules. Yeah, bring the kids. In Sweden, it's fucking, it's silly. I think music is the most important when you're like a teenager. So it sucks that they can't go to most gigs. I really hate that. And if you make a gig like for all ages, you can't serve alcohol, which makes it suck for me. I can't go to a gig without having a beer. That'll be awful. I have to listen to the music, which is awful. So yeah, it should be possible. In the States, I mean, you have these wristbands. Seems to be working. So why can't we have that in Sweden? But yeah. We're a little bit backwards in that sense. Here they can, but only seating areas with an adult. Bienen, where are you from? Is it Germany? Now I'm just guessing. I have no idea. Age to get in here is 21. Is that the US? Dave? Fuck, I've been to gigs and buying alcohol to minors. They were like 17. But that, I get, maybe it's different also in different states, right? I mean, music, I talked about this before. I did this survey when people found the album they loved the most, and almost everyone was between 14 and 17. That's when, you know, the music really, been. So it's in the UK. Okay, well, at least you can go to a gig then. I think that's better. And Dave, yeah, the US. I was in New York with people under the age of 21. I didn't understand then that buying them beer was like a punishable offense. They didn't tell me. But they were sitting underneath the bar, so you bought a beer and sort of dropped it, and they picked it up. Cunning. And I guess that's the reason why you can't have mixed audiences, because people like me can't be trusted not to buy alcohol to people who of not the proper age, whatever. But in any case, that's another episode, you know, continents where I have been incarcerated. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. Breaking the law. Yeah, fuck yeah. But I really think music shouldn't be an age thing. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're 13 or like 40. Music can be super important. And I think live gigs are also an important part. And as long as people behave and are not overly drunk, I don't see the problem with mixed audiences. But now I'm going to talk about an EP. But first I need to see. I remember they kicked me out from a bar in Helsinki, and I was with my father there. And you were 20, Rick. Were you drunk, Rika? I'm sure you were drunk. Finns, do they actually kick people out? My recollection from touring Finland is that they, as long as you can crawl, you're welcome. But maybe that's just because I play those venues. That sounds like Helsinki. Yeah, it was Helsinki, the capital of Finland. Finns, otherwise, you know, they always say that Swedes drink a lot, but fuck, we have nothing on the Finns. Finns and Russians are much tougher. That's where Swedes go to die when it comes to drinking. More drunk than a Finn? No. If you're drunk, you'll get kicked in the street. Yeah. When in Sweden we have something called entrance. What are they called? Like entrance hosts. Basically, there are people that they're not police, not even, you know, the rent-a-cops. They are some other species, and they are the ones who decide who's too drunk and who's too uncool to stay. Those people can kick you out even if you're sober in Sweden, just because, I mean, you don't fit the criteria of their fucking establishment. I've seen sober people get kicked out by them, but that's how it is. It's weird here in the States, you can't even buy a beer here in Illinois without an ID, no matter how old you are. Meanwhile, just north of us in Wisconsin, you can bring it. Yeah, I mean, the U.S. it's funny. I mean, we who don't live there, we tend to, or I'm speaking for myself. It's easy to see U.S. as a nation. It is, but it's a federation of states, 50 of them, and quite different. I mean, we see that when it's election time. But I mean, you guys really have different legislations to a high degree, and we tend to forget that. And when we out there touring, I haven't toured there with any of my bands because we're too small. But I mean, it really is different in different states. So it's in that sense, it's like Europe. I mean, in Europe, but we are different nations, so you expect it to be different. But in the US, I mean, it's the same country, but the states are very different. It's interesting. Bouncers, yeah, here too. Yeah, fucking bouncers. I mean, I love them when they're my friend and they sort of carry you in there, but most of the time they're not so friendly. And I mean, you can save them time and just beat yourself up instead. And they're sort of, unpunishable by law also. Oh, not the best. I have friends who are bouncers. I mean, some of them sure are okay, but some of them really, they're power tripping. You guys are writing so much. Dun, 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 dun. Different indeed, yeah. I mean, it's different. But I mean, also, let it be known that I love being in the US as a tourist. I mean, it's a wonderful country. It is. I'm not sarcastic here. Fantastic nature, and I mean, it's just it's a lovely place to visit. But I mean, visiting and living is different. I mean, I love Moscow as well, to be there as a tourist. I mean, I had fantastic times, but living there, different story. It's tougher. So it's important to differentiate between being a visitor and living there. So yeah, I understand. Went to Päckelebar, I suppose. They never ask for my ID, so metal bars rule. Yeah, metal bars in Finland, they tend to not be too picky. At all. Finland and Sweden used to be the same nation in a union for 600 years. But that's 300 years ago. But Sweden and Finland are very interconnected. A lot of Finnish descendants are living in Sweden. And some Swedes in Finland. And so, but we don't learn the Finnish language in school. So Finnish is like harder than Greek to most Swedes. In some parts of Finland, they speak both Finnish and Swedish. So, of course, they are bilingual, which is always like an advantage. But most Swedes don't understand Finnish, and a lot of Finns don't understand Swedish. While as if you compare Sweden and Norway or Sweden and Denmark, it's basically the same language. It's just strong dialects. So those three countries that are Scandinavia understand each other. At least they understand Swedes. Swedes can have a hard time understanding Danish people, but it's just because they're fucking with us, I think. They could speak proper, but they don't. They just blur the words to make life difficult. But they understand us easily. Or don't you agree, Jane? We have at least one Danish person. Can't go buy drinks when you're young to a concert. I used to drink chocolate milk and it became a tradition. A tradition most people found weird. Yeah, I find you weird, but you're Danish, so it's okay. I think I missed so many gigs by being pissed drunk. It's unbelievable. And I still can punish myself a bit. I was in London to go to a festival called Desert Fest. And then I learned that it was Bolt Fest, the Bolt Thrower Festival, was at the same weekend. So I managed to get a ticket to that. I went there and I passed out before Bolt Thrower went on stage. That's like a fail. But can't say it was worth it. Now let me see. How many dance understands? Not. Yeah, you do. We just raise our voice and our language becomes clear and decipherable. Okay, so there are some Danish who don't understand Swedish either. Yeah, okay. I agree. I'm learning Danish and I can't pronounce anything. That's the point. In Danish, you don't really pronounce. You just, you say it with a lot of passion. They're more passionate than Swedish people, but they don't spend so much time with pronunciation. I'm on YouTube and the stream stops from time to time for a second or so. Was something wrong with YouTube today, or are they still having problems? I don't really know, actually. I don't know if it's a YouTube problem or if it's my system. I can't really say it so. I do something not to noise the concert spoken too quickly. I'm married to a Norwegian. Okay, yeah. Well, that's sort of cheating because, well, Norwegians, Swedish, and Danish people, we pretend to be more different than we are, but we have some differences. I think, but it tends to be that Swedish don't dare to really make fun of the other nations anymore because we used to, be really successful, and now we're sort of the poor cousin. So the joke has stopped. All right, so I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about another recording because I promised to do that. And I start by putting on the wrong thing. Wow. And this is going to be magical because, as you can see, expensive, super production here. I'm going to talk about this one. This is the Lighthouse Eternal EP that Netherbird recorded, and feel free to talk about this or whatever. Keep at it. But I'm going to talk my way through a discography at some point, and I better get to it. But in order to talk about it, I need to research the EP myself. And I do that by going to the Netherbird site. But in any case, this is the third recording we did. And this one, let's see, it came out on August the 12th of August 2007. So it's like 13 and a half years ago. Damn, time flies. And before I get into it, I can say that this was during the MySpace era when Netherbird really worked hard on social media, and we really, reached a pretty big audience. We almost had 100,000 friends on MySpace. And on this one, we decided to celebrate all of our listeners. So actually the cover is made up of maybe 5,000 profile photos of friends of the band. You can find it on the Netherbird page if you want to, but I think it's I can't say it's the most beautiful cover, but in a way it's very special because at least we made people who care about our music part of our music forever, in a sense, because we included them. So when you see it, a little bit like mosaic behind in the sky, it's because there are photos and they are all over this release. And I really like that, actually. On this EP, we were starting to become more of a band. Then it was just me and Bismarck left in the original lineup. We were three when we started. It was me, Bismarck, and Grim, but then it was Bismarck and me. And then Adrian, who just left Cradle of Filth, joined us to do the drums. And as a side note, before Adrian said yes, I was talking to Gene Hoglan, who's, obviously been in Death and, Dark Angel, tons of other bands, fantastic drummer. But when Adrian said yes, it felt, natural, because we sent the demos to him. And I think he was quite interested, because when I spoke to him, he was about to leave Cradle of Filth. I knew him, of course, from the At the Gates time. But it felt like good timing. So actually, we booked the the studio. It's recorded. The drums are recorded in Studio Fredman in Gothenburg, where tons of famous albums being recorded. Dimmu Borgir, At the Gates, whatever. Awesome studio. So we actually borrowed the drum kit from Janne Sarenpää, the then drummer in The Crown, who we worked with on Boulevard Black, the first recording. So we went down there, recorded the drums, and it's really analog drums on this recording, and the songs, there are like, let me see how many songs there were. I think there was 6 tracks on this one. I'm not sure. They're all part of. They're all included on the Ghost Collector, along with Blood Orchid and Boulevard Black releases. It's 6 tunes. The one that I think is the most noticeable, or like the one that we played live the most, is Forever Mournful, which is like basically a duet between me and a girl. Her name is Clara. She sings like proper, and I growl. Also, The Beauty of Bones is a pretty cool track from this EP. But I actually also like the Lighthouse Eternal tune, but we haven't played it live yet. We should at some point. Oh, Sylvia, so happy to hear that. And I have to say, that lyric is one of my one of the ones that I'm the most happy about, because it's a mission statement about what Netherbird is about and who we are playing for, and it is really for the stray souls, the cast far away from Eden, and so it is a fairly important piece of music and lyrics, and this is also the first EP where Nord did his appearance. So he did some choir work, and his wife at the time, Atvia, also did some choir work, but it was what would turn into the first real lineup of Netherbird. Basically was gathered here, but not all of it. I'll come back to that on the Ghost Collector thing, I guess next week then. But it was Bismarck, it was me, and it was Adrian, and then Nord. The 4 of us, and then another guy, Tobias Gustafsson from Eucharist. We sort of became the first full lineup of Elvira. Hey, привет! In case you're watching. Elvira is a guitarist of Blackthorn, a band that I spoke to a few months ago on the stream. Should go check it out. Awesome, all-female band, which is, it's cool in itself. But they're really good, and they play, gothic-inspired black metal, and I think it's hard hitting. And that band is one day younger than Netherbird. They were formed on the 31st of October in 2004. We were formed the day before. Good wine. Yeah, the same. Yeah, I did the same. I went to your stream just a while ago and said hello, and then proceeded. And this is 9 from Wormwood. We're Wormwood. If you haven't checked out Wormwood yet, you really should, because you have 2 albums that you need to discover before they release the 3rd album next year, and it's gonna be, I'm sure, awesome. And I'm gonna be, offended by the awesomeness. Bigger wine glass, please. Well, I can fix that for you, sir. Check how big it is now. Haha, Gothenburgian humor. But on this EP, we started to become like a proper band. The band that also did like the video for The Blackest Breed and stuff. So we went from, a full studio project to something that later on became a signed band, the Netherbird of today. This is also where me and Bismarck went wrong, I would say, because we decided to use distorted high-pitch vocals. And I think that sucks. But at that time, I wasn't pleased with how my sort of mid-register sounded. And we hadn't found a way. So in order to, I don't know, to make it more dynamic, or, you know, I don't know, less dry, we used a lot of distortion on the vocals. And I think today it sounds, we should have done it differently. But at that time we thought, yeah, no, let's do this. And it wasn't so unusual in those days. You can actually hear it on a lot of recordings. But we really... we went all the way with the distortion. I think sometimes, you know, if it sounds too cool, then maybe it is. So sometimes I think, you know, less effects can be good. But in any case, that's where I'd say this is where Netherbird as a real band started. So it was during the Lighthouse Eternal recordings, and from that point on, we became a band. Let's see what RIKET says. When we started with those tracks, I like... Thank you. I'm happy that we sort of were like a gate opener to harsher music. And I say, I've said this many times, I don't consider Netherbird, you know, pure black metal or anything like that, but we are certainly affiliated with this scene, and we take a lot of inspirations from it. But if we can, you know, lead more people into the darkness, I'm pretty pleased. So that's 9 years ago. So yeah, we did something right. I'm happy to hear that. And I think. Yeah, so those are the three like primal recordings that we did before we became, you know, a proper band, more like a studio band. So we did the Boulevard Black with Sarenper from The Crown on drums, then we did Blood Orchid with Moyo on drums, and then we did the Lighthouse Eternal with Adrian. And from that point we decided, okay, so we are a band, so obviously we can, you know, start acting like a band. So it took us 2 years, more or less, to go from, you know, an ID studio project to a proper band. But we didn't really have a solid plan or anything. We just tried stuff out, and then we felt it started to work out. It was funny because I can tell you a lot of stories about Adrian. He's a phenomenal, you know, drummer, but also an awesome guy. Little bit older than me, so he is my senior, and of course, I mean, I was starstruck working with him because, you know, it's Adrian and he's super cool. He's also like a Hulk. He's fucking towering me. But we had a good time drinking, you know, light beers and listening to old two-stroke, you know, death metal during that studio session. So that was like a good bonding experience, and I still count him as a really good friend, even though we're not in much contact, you know, on a daily basis or anything. But we meet when we can, and I'm super happy about, you know, his contribution to Netherbird and this one, next album. I'll come back to that. But me and Bismarck, we were talking to him. Yeah, fuck, we more or less, we are a band now, but we need like a bassist. And he decided, you know, this Tobias guy, I guess he could stand you guys because you talk so much, and he can deal with that. I was like, oh, okay. We talk a lot, I guess. As I guess he meant me, because I do talk. That's why we're here. But it's been ages. Still haven't played with Adrian live. It's been, you know, close several times, but it's, for logistical reasons. He lives in London, and these days he's very active with, at the gates, obviously. But at some point, I'm sure we will, do something. But he really was one of the true, pure reasons why Netherbird went from, a studio thing to a real band. So he might not know that, but he was very, very critical to that point, that happening. So that's Lighthouse Eternal, but all the three recordings that I spoke about are featured on the Ghost Collector. So the Ghost Collector are these 3 recordings plus 2 songs that we did. But I will talk about that next time. Time is running out, but before I, stop talking to, the happiness of every sane person, I will talk about a classical album. Because last time, if you were here, you know that I spoke about the Grind Crusher compilation, which led me to, Mentally Murdered EP with Napalm, and which, later on made me discover Harmony Corruption. Or actually, no, it was released. I found it. Everything was perfect. And this really meant a lot to me when it comes to, hey, Ricardo. Okay, so I'll answer this. You're welcome whenever it suits you, Ricardo. And Elvira, what's the situation with the quarantine restrictions in Sweden now? It's still, we should keep distance, but it's really up to every citizen to take responsibility to not go out, socialize any more than we're supposed to or have to. So only if you have like a critical job that needs you there, then you can go. Otherwise, you should work from home. Keep your distance. Only 8 people can meet at the same time, and you should basically keep only to your family or a close circle of friends. So Christmas will be very different this year. New Year will be very different. But we still don't have a very strict. There are no laws. It's just strong recommendations from the state. So as long as you're not more than 8 people, there's not much they can do. But I'd say it's okay. Concerts, no. We are not allowed to do big gatherings currently. So the concerts, it's been mainly out since spring, actually. There have been some solutions where with seated audience with big distances, but very few concerts. And it's a lockdown in Netherlands. Yeah, we don't have a lockdown, but basically we still have a lockdown. In essence, we are supposed to act as if it's a lockdown, but we're still free to do whatever. So at this point, it's not a proper lockdown, but we're supposed to keep distance. I talk so much, but I have so much to say. So, this album changed tons. And then it's this one. Actually, it was the previous album, which is Realm of Chaos. That where I discovered Bolt Thrower. But on Bolt Thrower, the War Master album, this one, with the not so fucking pretty cover art, but I didn't give a fuck when I was 16. Now I can say, maybe it's a little bit colorful. This was like the continuation of the Napalm Death experience, but even more, fierce. Not in the grindcore sense, but in, the harsh sense of death metal. So this album became also extremely important to me. Of course, Realm of Chaos is more extreme, but this one is more refined. And I still hold it as, the best Bolt Thrower album in my opinion. But Bolt Thrower is one of the few bands that never disappointed me. They never Metallica'd on me. Could be a Manowar cover, which is not a bad thing, because Manowar are amazingly good. I know it's a bit shady to say so, but fuck, I love Manowar. But yeah, it could be. But I mean, bolt throw in those days, I mean, truth be told, there were not so many rules. I mean, people tried stuff out, and bolt throw also realized, well, maybe it's a little bit too colorful. So I mean, they toned down the color on albums to come. But I mean, since it's death metal, colors are still allowed. But yeah, it's a it could certainly be a, if it's Joey there in the middle and he's swinging a bass, then it definitely would be Manowar. I think this saw them live in 2013. I saw Manowar in not Manowar, Bolt Thrower. I saw, fuck, that's a long time ago. 92 maybe, with Grave, I think, in a small city called Fagersta in Sweden, which for some reason booked all the good gigs. So we had to travel like 350 kilometers one way to go to the concert and then back. I fucking love Bolt Thrower, because they, in a sense, they never sold out. They never turned anywhere near commercial, and also they quit when they felt it was the time to quit. You know, when they lost their, you know, the not the drummer of this album, but the current, you know, the drummer of Bolt Thrower, when he passed, they decided it was time to quit. And I can say I revere them for that, because I think knowing when to quit and to actually do that and not, you know, reunite in 2 years, it's a very respectful thing to do, actually. So Bolt Thrower is one of these bands that never disappointed me whatsoever. But now I told you about 2 classic albums that influenced me a lot. And you can't really tell when you listen to Netherbird, I guess. But if you listen to RIKET, you can actually, I think, hear a little bit more of both Napalm and of Bolt Thrower. I mean, not in the sense that we sound similar, but there are influences, definitely. I actually think I have more death metal, you know, influences that I show in Netherbird. Netherbird is slightly more melodic, black metalish, heavy metalish, and I do like death metal, and I never really made a distinction between the two. They're very different, you know, animals, surely, and 2 different, you know, subgenres, and I don't blend them so easily. But I'm happy to do stuff in either genre, and I think both are important, and I still have a hard time understanding why people who listen to one of the styles have a hard time listening to the other styles. That's something that came much later, that distinction and this divide between them. It didn't exist in the early 90s. It started with the Norwegian scene bashing on death metal, but I never really saw that problem. And I as you will see when I come to, you know, other classics, I actually I hold a lot of, you know, I took a lot of interest and a lot of inspiration from both of these spheres, and I don't see them as separate. Let's see. Still remember how cool it was, even though I had no idea there are. Rika, for fuck's sake. But that's okay. But they were super cool. And Joe Bench, the bassist, she's super awesome. She's just the coolest one out there, I think. And she has broken many bearded hearts by just being, you know, completely careless about, you know, what people think of her. She's just super cool. Send greetings to your spouse, Ina. Hope the concert will return in 2021. Yes, I will certainly send your best regards. And I hope you guys get to see Scorpions together in Moscow at some point soon. You deserve it. But many of the Norwegians then were doing it. Yes, I mean, Norwegians... Norway was it wasn't as polarized as it looks today. I mean, if you look on Darkthrone, there was a death metal band from the very beginning, and then it progressed quickly to something else. But I mean, it wasn't that big of a difference from the very beginning. But pretty quickly, black metal distanced itself from death metal. But death metal is like this bigger brother who didn't really care, I would say. But it's I think it's also, it became very, I mean, musically it's not so different, but the mindset is quite different. But it's still, to me, it's extreme metal, but with various very different offsets, where, you know, death metal is closer affiliated to thrash metal, and I would say that black metal is more affiliated to the rawest heavy metal or speed metal. So there are branches, and they branched out, and the further the branches grow, the further apart they become. But the very beginning wasn't that different. What platform do you use for stream now? Looks good, thank you. I use, and I'm unsponsored, but sponsors are welcome to contact me. I use Slobs, so it's Streamlabs OBS, and that's what I'm broadcasting from. I use their multicast. But yeah, it's better. We used the Be Live when we did this stuff. Didn't like the experience, but next time we'll do something proper, I promise. So now I spoke a little bit about the Lighthouse Eternal EP. Extremely important, I think, to if it would have, you know, failed, or if we felt it wasn't good at all, I don't think Netherbird would have existed. I don't think we ever would have became a proper band without, you know, feeling like, you know, Adrian contributing the drums. It all felt, you know, organic, true, and good. So that's important for me as a person. The War Master album influences every growl you'll ever hear from me. Not the screaming stuff, but the growl. And also why I think sometimes, you know, you just need to grind stuff with on the guitar. So that also comes from Bolt Thrower. But anywho, next weekend it's the last stream before Christmas. So I'll maybe not wear a Christmas hat, but I might find something Christmassy, and I'll definitely bring a few gifts, so make sure to be here then. Then I'll talk about the Ghost Collector, maybe something more, I think, Covered in Darkness. And I'll talk about some more classics, and then I'll just talk, have some wine. But I think that's more or less it for today. Sounds okay? Sounds like a plan? Will you be here next week? At 8 o'clock Swedish time? Yeah, time will tell, right? The chat will, if everything turns out okay, also be visible for a few more minutes. But in any case, I appreciate you guys showing up. And I appreciate the community that is here, and that's not my making. You guys are making that one happen, so that's really cool. I know. But next week I will talk about that, and then it will be my New Year's sort of resolution stream, and then we start season 2 with some guests. I have some really cool up-and-coming artists that will join us, and some quite established. So next year will be interesting, and I'm looking forward to sharing it all with you guys. But until then, I hope that you guys stay safe. We're not through this shit yet. We need to, you know, act smart for another 3 to 6 months at least. So keep your distance, wash your hands. Do not spread madness on social media. There are so many, you know, rumors and speculations, despite all the data being there. So just, you know, be sensible, and to stay really sane, join this stream every week. Or not. But you're free to. I would love you guys to return here. And it's a privilege to share this with you guys. Same to you, Droj, Nazu. Do take care. Hail Satan. Hail sanity. Don't believe the dogmas. And don't spread the madness. Stay safe. And see you guys in a week. Cheers.